So, Alice, thanks a million for joining us on the podcast. I'm always really excited when there's another thriller writer on. Yeah, I just think thrillers are just such a fascinating topic, and especially when it's to do with psychopaths and serial killers. So in the spirit of that kind of dark macabre, we're going to lighten it up maybe with just a few kind of questions here first. And it's just stats. You're not expected to know them. It's more of just a kind of game as well for the listeners. So we have 5 questions here. The first one: how many serial killers are estimated to be active in the US currently? Give a guess.
My God. Right, okay. I'm guessing a fair few. Oh, I don't know now. I want to say like 300, but I think it's going to be much more.
It's actually less.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yeah.
Oh, I'm really sorry, people in America.
So the FBI have it at around 50, but it peaked in the 70s and 80s. It peaked at 250. So it's come down hugely. And like, I think the reasons why they're saying is they just like the serial killers get caught before they...
Exactly that, yeah.
You know.
So, yeah, I don't suppose it's gone down really. It's just the fact that either that or they're just not being caught at all. And
yeah.
they're still below the radar. Yeah.
Yeah, which is even very frightening. Okay, next one. So what is the, like, obviously we've male and female serial killers. Can you give a guess on the percentage split? So what percent are male compared to female?
Well, there's higher males, so it's something like I think it's like 1% male. Oh, no, I don't know.
So what?
Psychopaths.
Yeah.
10% women out of
very, very close. Yeah. So what it's estimated is on the RAD, it's 93% of known serial killers are male and 7% female.
Right.
So that's known. That's what's caught again sometimes because the MO differs so differently as well. Next one. This one really surprised me. But anyway, I'll ask the question first. So what do you think the race split is? So, white, black, Hispanic, even just say if you want to give a percent on male serial killers being white, what's the percent, do you think?
I'm going to be really hot. 85?
I would have thought way higher. It's actually 52%, 40% black, 6% Hispanic, and 2% other. Because you always see that as the archetype or the trope is always the kind of white loner, white male in his 30s or 40s.
Yeah. So someone like you?
Someone like me, yeah. The secret serial killer. Okay, this one's interesting as well. So what is the average age of the first kill? Now, it doesn't have to be a specific age, but is it like teens? Is it like early 20s, late 20s, mid 30s, etc.?
Early 20s?
Yeah, very close, mid 20s. But for female serial killers tend to start later, often mid 30s or 40s, which is
that's
really interesting.
Yeah. Oh, why? Do we know why?
I don't know why.
Oh, I might have to look at that.
I will actually probably get to that in the last question because I think their patterns change before. Okay, what is the average number of victims?
Oh, per serial killer?
The average. So when you aggregate it together and we get the average.
4?
So they reckon between 7 and 8.
Oh.
But obviously, like Gary Ridgway had, I think it was 48, was it? Some have way higher and then some will have lower.
Yeah, it's going to skew the results a little bit there.
And... okay, so last one. In terms of victimology, there's 2 more actually. In terms of victimology, what percent tend to be strangers or people they know for both male and female? So, like, for the male serial killer, would 90% be people they know or be strangers, etc.?
That's difficult, isn't it? Because a lot of killing tends to be people you know, but serial killers have got a whole different thing going.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's not a pattern necessarily or a rhyme or reason. 80% strangers?
Yeah, so you're really nearly on the nose there with it. So for about 70% of male serial killers target strangers. Now, this is the crazy thing for me anyway, while 70% of female serial killers target people they know, partners, patients, dependents. And I think that goes, probably what's skewing that is a bit, is the angel, like the Lucy Letby's kind of.
Yeah. That's definitely, okay. Oh, that is really, and of course Harold Shipman is more, he was kind of patients, wasn't he, and people that he would have known.
Yeah, he was another angel of Dr. Death, I think
Yeah.
you'd call him. Last one. So globally, the US accounts for the highest percentage of serial killers worldwide. Can you give a percentage of that?
Oh, they've got to be way up there, haven't they?
Yeah.
I might even go 95%.
So 67.
Oh God,
Yeah.
I'm really sorry to anybody that lives in America. I feel
Yeah.
like
But and Alice, that's documented. So like I think in some, because you had a lot in Russia and stuff as well. I think a lot of
Okay.
them, maybe they kind of went under the radar a bit more.
And I wonder if it's like TV shows, isn't it? In my head, there's so much American kind of stuff, and I just think
Always.
maybe it's that's made
Yeah.
me think that it's higher there.
Yeah. Was that like that Andrei Ciccarello? He was one of the worst ever. He was in Russia. He was just But yeah, I suppose like why I always get this asked this question, so I want to ask it to you as well, and I do ask it to a lot of my guests. Number one, titles of your book: The Serial Killer's Wife, The Serial Killer's Daughter, The Serial Killer's Sister. We've Bad Apple, but then we have The Perfect Psychopath. Like, why do you think people are so interested in serial killers and psychopaths?
I don't know actually, because I think it's mainly we all have that kind of question. We want to understand it, maybe. I mean, but it is fascinating. It's human, like you said, the dark side of human nature. So whether we're all trying to tap into that and just learn more about it so that we can feel, I don't know about safer, I don't think that's necessarily it, but just that whole thing of if we learn more about it, we could, well, maybe it is keeping us safe. We are thinking ultimately, it's the whole, we want to make sure that we don't succumb to these kind of people. And
yeah. And I think in your books, Alice, it's like the serial killers go almost undetected. They have these normal lives, and it's like, I think maybe in true crime we're looking out for, is there a, like, I think it's a multitude probably of factors. It's kind of almost of a red herring of a question, but I think, we are looking out for, what are the warning signs? What are the, is there something I can learn to tell to keep me safer, etc. But there is an absolute sheer fascination, whether it's the thrillers, TV shows, or then into the true crime.
Yeah, but it's on the TV all the time as well, isn't it? It's like you can't actually escape it.
Yeah.
Whether it's that you're more accustomed to seeing it, and it's almost more normal to see these things than it is not to see them. Yeah, but I think I was always fascinated, with well, not psychopaths, but just psychology from quite an early age. Sort of, I think I started college and I did a psychology course, like GCSE. It was like basic. It was mostly child psychology, in fact. But that started me on that path of thinking about how we all behave and, why some people behave in one way other than reactions and things. So it wasn't like psychopathy and things like that. It didn't come into my, I don't know, just didn't come into my thought patterns until much, much later, I think. And it's really my prison work that brought me into contact with the whole psychopathy. So I was quite late, really, before I started thinking about psychopaths, even though they were in my, I'd seen the films, I'd seen stuff when I was growing up. But I don't know if I really thought about psychopaths as much. They're killers. In my head, I suppose they were just killers. I hadn't thought about the personality traits or, the antisocial personality kind of disorders, because that's something I feel like we've learned later, maybe. Those kind of things have come in later, so... Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and touching on that, because I think they're one of the estimates I read is obviously in the general population, psychopathies, they kind of clock at around 1%. But in the prison system, they've estimated up to 25%. So when you were working in the prison, you would have come into a lot of contact with psychopaths. Now, obviously, we know not all are killers. Some they can be con men or they can be just, violent offenders, but they're not serial killers. That's so rare. But you would have worked with a lot of them. Is it kind of that manipulation, when you were facilitating? Do you feel that pressure on you?
There is, yeah, the manipulation was one of the bigger things, I think. But in a sense, a lot of the prisoners, whether they were classed as having the psychopathy or not, they were quite manipulative because they've just learnt that behaviour. But we had like the PCLR check, the psychopath checklist, I didn't use it. So I was a facilitator, so I worked alongside the psychologists who obviously would have conducted those like tests and checklists to see. And I think it's like something like they've got to score above 25, 30 or something to be like classed as having the psychopath tendencies. But yeah, so there was certain people that I knew had scored high on these psychopath tests. And the psychologist would say, oh, you're about to work with this person. Let's have a chat beforehand so that you can see how to work with them, given their psychopathy. So you were going into those kind of situations knowing that they're a psychopath. Yeah, it tilts it, doesn't it? Because like you're already going in with a preconceived idea then of what they're going to be like. So the grandiose kind of, self-worth and just their whole, I don't know, the ones that I actually know were psychopaths definitely had a level of, the manipulation was like high level.
Yeah.
And they were being really nice and lovely, and they'd use your name a lot. It used to creep me out a little bit, which is odd, but they're just, it's just the way they used it, the way they said it was just really like they're trying to relate to you or make you relate to them. And it's just, I don't know, they're almost like trying to get you to agree with what they're saying. And yeah, it was interesting, but not scary, because you're in you're in a safe space initially. Really, you're not going to, a prison. Actually, I felt safer in the prison than I did when I was outside of the prison, because you've got people there, haven't you, that are going to come in and help you out if there's an issue. There's always a bell you can push. But yeah, there's certainly some men, because it was all men that I worked with, that were, they just used their ability, I guess, and you could tell that the empathy, because that's where it's kind of pointless trying to get any empathy from them, because they're not going to have that ability. So
doesn't fire. It's not like the amygdala is too underregulated to really fire. Like what? Like the manipulation, like in a prison, is it like, would they be trying to, get early release? Is it more around getting like favors done, or is it just a psychological game for power control, or all the
all
above?
of that? I'd say all of that. Yeah. I think from my point of view, I was working with them on a program which at the time was basically the thinking skills program, which it's coming to an end now in prisons, I think. And so I would be writing, at the end of it, I'd write a report. So a lot of the manipulation was in terms of they're telling you what they want you to hear so that you give them a good report so they can then progress through the system. So, but again, that kind of was evident in a number of prisoners, not necessarily just ones with the psychopathic tendencies. So it is difficult. But then there's also the argument that a lot of the prisoners could have psychopathic tendencies, but they've just not been tested for it because it doesn't relate to something. I don't know. But yeah, so there's definitely signs that it's like some are just sort of underlying. I'm trying to remember what some of them used to say. I remember one offering gifts as well, like, or wouldn't you like a nice handbag? And like, I just like really random things. And there's also one that tried to get me to take he had like a cap or something that was ripped, and he wanted me to go and take it home to mend it. And it's like really odd little things like that don't sound necessarily bad, but like once you start doing anything, or if you were to do something like that, you're sucked in. And like it could be something simple like post a letter for me. Yeah, because I've missed the post, like the on the wing, and you just think, well, no. The second you take that out, it's laying yourself open for other.
Yeah, and that's a big sales
behaviour.
tactic as well. like in sales, they call it like one foot in the
Yeah.
door. You get someone to do a
Yes,
really minor
yes.
request,
Exactly, yeah.
and it opens them to being, kind of more servile, and you can get them to keep escalating. It's very much a sales tactic, which is it's
That's
interesting.
interesting. I wonder how many salespeople have psychopathic tendencies.
Yeah, they probably make better ones, to be honest, because they're more ruthless in going for closing
Well,
a deal.
and like it says, some people who have those tendencies aren't going to be serial killers, so they'll put their skills to different things. So yeah, in corporate kind of world, it'd probably be suitable. Yeah, the killer corporate world.
Killer, yeah, and some of them are, because there's a high preponderance of psychopathy. They're reckoning, like, especially like CEO positions, liars. Actually, speaking of liars, I had a psychopath on the podcast. It's probably a good few months back, but she wrote that Confessions of a Sociopath podcast, and it kind of relates to what your point there was. She was saying, like, everything she does, she's trying to preempt what will please you. So she's trying to, like, everything I say, she's trying to say something I'm going to make me like her more. And she said she went for years in therapy. And what her therapist did, I think this is fascinating, gave her a thought experiment. Imagine that she's the only person that exists in the world, and what decision would she make? Because constantly her whole internal dialogue is running on this almost algorithm that I need to predict what you like, because then it'll be easier to control you. So if she imagines that there's no one else but her, how does she behave? Because she's no sense of self, she was saying. It's starting to grow now, because she's starting to think that no one else exists, it's only her. How do I behave? Who am I? So a self is starting to germinate almost. But yeah, it's fascinating. They're constantly trying to predict what you want.
Yeah, but like you said, you can see that works really well for a lot of jobs, a lot of life. It works in families even. It helps if you're keeping everybody happy almost as well.
Yeah.
But you might not have that ability to be doing it for yourself. You're always doing it for somebody else. But then with psychopaths as well, if they're not, their emotions are a lot different. So I wonder how that kind of plays out there must be learning along the way, sort of what is expected from them, and like showing emotion. Because some do show a level of emotion, but they might not be feeling it. So they're learning all the time from other people, aren't they, I suppose? And that's how I suppose they can mask. A lot of the tendencies can be masked because they're seeing how it figures out. And that's why I suppose a lot of serial killers are, family men. They've settled into a job and they've got the family situation. Everyone loves them. And it's because they've learnt so well how to blend in with the surroundings.
Blending in. And as well, like, I think there's a level of cognitive awareness where they'll understand, okay, this is a sad situation. Act sad, but the actual emotion doesn't hit. It's a cognitive understanding of sadness. I'm at a funeral, look grieved, but without actually feeling the grief. But I suppose getting back, you've had you started out as a nurse, I think, as well, from what I'd read, then into the prison system, and then into a writer when you were 40s. Like, that's a kind of a very undulating journey. Like, what drew you to nursing? And to go back maybe to the start, what drew you into nursing originally?
Nursing was something, I think, from school. I don't know, my teacher had said to me about, like, I'm really caring, I like to look after other people. And just, I don't know if you did it when you were at school, but they do the, like, career things and, like, the tests to see what kind of career would suit you best. And nursing came up, and I came from a background, I lived, like I said, I've lived in this village all my life, council house. My mum and dad my dad was a labourer, my mum worked in a pub. So I hadn't had any aspirations, I suppose, necessarily to have a career. So I just got, carried along on a wave. So I did, after school, I went to college to do what they called the A-level hospital professions course. Really mad.
Yeah.
And I actually dropped out after a year, so I'm a bit of a dropout person. And then I think I just got into dentist. I was a dentist now. I can't think. dental nurse
Yeah.
for a little while. So it's always in that kind of caring, looking after other people thing. And I eventually did go back into nursing as an auxiliary nurse. So did a bulk of my I think it's 10 years on maternity unit. So lovely little job with, many babies, perfect, lovely. And ended up, was kind of encouraged to do my nursing training. So I did the nursing training from there with the Open University. So I actually stayed in the hospital that I worked at and did my training, on the job kind of thing. But once I qualified, I think I left quite soon afterwards. You can see the pattern here, can't you? So I start something, don't necessarily finish it. I actually did qualify as nursing, but then I left. I've had 3 children by then. They were all little. And so I spent some time basically just with the family and got a little job at the school as a dinner lady and realised that children aren't my thing. I can't deal with children. I like my own, but I'm not so good with everybody else's. The job for the prison came up, and it fascinated me. I suppose, like I said, I'd done the psychology, even though I didn't finish the A level. I did the GCSE, and I had been doing psychology with the Open University. So when my third child was born, I think it was about 6 months he must have been. And I carried on with the psychology degree through the Open University. And with the prison job coming up, I just thought, that's perfect. That would be great. It's close by. I can, it's full time. So that was a big leap for me in terms of the kids and trying to work out everything. But I didn't really know what I was getting myself into, Gary. It was I'd looked at the job description, but didn't really take it all in. Went for the job without really thinking I'd get it. I don't know why. I just didn't think I'd get it. And when I interviewed, we did a tour around the prison, and actually it was a guy who'd been a lifer, who was obviously a trusted lifer, showed me around his cell, and we were on this interview, and I just was fascinated by the stuff he was telling me, all his stuff. He'd killed somebody, and I don't know, I was just really taken in with this whole thing. I thought, that's really good. Anyway, I did all the interview stuff, and there's various bits and pieces. I went home not really thinking that I'd get it, but I just had that feeling that this could be a job that would be my forever job. That's how it felt, even though I hadn't got it, obviously, at that point. And eventually, I think it was a couple of weeks later, they said that I'd got the job, but the funding had been taken away or something. There's some big issue. Actually, we're not going to give you the job. You've got it, but you're not having it yet. And I think it was 6 months before I actually started the job. So it'd been a real
it did still come around.
It did come around, and I got in there. But I just wasn't really... I think my first meeting was I was with a trainee psychologist, and she said, come in and, shadow my interview with this guy who... basically, they do the interviews to see if they fit the criteria for the programme that they want to go on. And it was going to be the sex offender treatment programme that he was going on. And I sat in on the interview, and it was this biggest, woomph, because she was asking him questions, and he just turned around and really calmly, he had to describe what he'd done, and he just said, he'd put his hands around this woman's neck and started strangling her. And he said, and then I killed her. Just like that. And then I killed her. And it's just such...
casual.
It was so casual and just so odd. And I just sat there and was thinking, did he just say it like that? And it's God. So that was my first experience, really, was with this guy who he was my age, I think, as well. And looked very normal. So like you were saying earlier about you kind of expect some kind of traits, or you expect something visual. I don't know. You just expect to feel an element of creepiness or something, but nothing. There's just nothing. It was just it's this big shock, really, for me. And I remember I didn't say anything for the rest of the afternoon. I don't think I came out of this interview just thinking, oh my God, that's mad. But yeah, and eventually, we did training for the thinking skills programme that we were going to deliver. And initially when I'd got there, we were classed as psychological assistants. and we'd do we'd do interviews and like one-on-one work. But I don't know, they must have just changed it like they do with everything. They changed it to this facilitator role.
Yeah.
So we were then known as offending behaviour facilitators, or facilitators for the programmes. And yeah, so that was, I kind of really got into that. The thinking skills programme was the main one, and then I also was trained in the sex offender treatment programme, both of which have gone. I mean, they don't even do that anymore.
Yeah,
I think they found the sex offender treatment program was actually making them worse. So that's
reliving.
That's awful. Yeah, just the way the program was set up, apparently it was making them.
Oh,
they're buying back into it, and the reoffending rate was just as high. So it didn't work.
Wow,
it's quite upsetting actually. After you think you've put. Because a lot of people, when you work with prisoners, friends, family, were like, how do you do that? How can you possibly work with sex offenders? They're the scum of the earth. They're this, they're that. They should be shot. They should be, all the kind of things you normally get with that. I was like, but in my mind, I was a part of helping create fewer victims in the future. Because these guys, a lot of them were getting out. They're going to get out into the world. So if there's a way of helping and just hoping that they would at least take something from it and not reoffend, then you felt like you were doing something valuable.
I know, because that's the ultimate goal, isn't it? To try reduce the recidivism.
But it wasn't working. So there's a new program now. Obviously, I'm not involved in the prison service anymore, but there's a different program. I think I put it in the book actually, what it's called. But
it's such a complex, like just trying to reduce recidivism in general. It's so complex. Like in college, I did psychology in college. I went back very later as well, kind of like you, dropped out of a lot of things. But I did my thesis in it's like the biggest prison in Ireland, the Midlands prison. And I wanted to study psychopathy and criminal social identity to see, like, was there a cluster around, if I see myself as my identity as a criminal, does that increase recidivism, etc. Now, what happened was, the majority of the people that filled out the survey tended to be, I think it was like 70% sex offender. They just tend to be more compliant. So what I ended up kind of was with a sample size of sexual offenders. So I kind of went into see was there any correlations with, different variables that happen throughout their life into, the nature of the crimes. The only kind of significant variables were peer rejection and bullying. That tended to be a bit more of a predictor. Obviously, no, it's not causation or anything like that, but that I found that interesting that, was there a level then, like for someone to go on and do something like a sexual assault, sexual offending, like it's a very violating thing. Is there something there that's tethered back with, I was rejected, there's this level of kind of hate or kind of, I want to get back, but again, it's only speculation. It's hard to say, but I think it's such complex issues, like, because, poverty and social inequality just play so much into the hands of crime. Like, I think if everything was equal across the strata, like, I don't think there'd be as much crime. I think it normally comes out of desperation. Not that it excuses it, but I think it's a huge societal issue related to poverty.
Definitely, because we'd work with prisoners that were going to get out and would do something like looking at their red flags and look at their social circle to see who in that social circle are going to be people that are going to help them, or those that are going to actually just bring them back into that kind of level of crime again. And they just couldn't escape their circle. It was just so hard. Can't. It's really. Who's going to help you? Who's going to be your protective factor? Because one guy I worked with, his whole family were criminal.
Yeah.
In fact, he was in prison with his dad, so I had the son and the dad together. That was an interesting one. So, how are they escaping that? It's really hard, really hard.
And that's the thing with the criminal social identity. So to put even this into like context, it'd be like, imagine growing up in a family where like the whole family supports Liverpool. Everyone is like a mad Liverpool fan. They watch the games every week, or they go to Anfield and watch the games. Everything, the whole relationship between maybe the siblings and the dad and the mum or that is based around Liverpool winning the league or something like that. And then it's like, you're then saying to one of the children, you're not allowed to support Liverpool anymore. Like a whole part of their identity and kind of familial identity is built up around supporting Liverpool. Well, it's the same like with criminality, and that's what that criminal social identity was looking at. It's, could my identity get so caught up in being a criminal that it's almost, I can't separate who the real me is from the identity of, oh, I'm a criminal, crime, I'm going to do this, going to prison's a good thing, kind of, etc.
And of course unfortunately, in prison, they're then socialising with other people that are also criminals. It's just,
so complex.
Breaking that cycle is difficult. And also, like you were saying about the sexual offending, a lot that I worked with had abuse in their own past. So they'd been abused themselves, which took a while for me to figure out, because I was thinking, surely if that was your experience, you'd want different. But it's not the way it's not the way it worked. But yeah,
it's a
very sad situation.
Hurt people.
Yes, yeah, I say that quite a lot. I think that. Yeah.
But I think that's a bit of victim blaming as well, because I don't think all hurt people go hurt people. But yeah, there definitely does seem to be correlates there between people that maybe were abused and go on, which is for whatever reason. But again, the mind is so complex. There's trapdoors everywhere in the mind. It's really hard. Once you think you understand something, you fall through and you realise you don't understand anything.
No. And then you go down rabbit holes, don't you? Of like I said, especially when you're fascinated with this sort of work, I think you end up looking, researching something and going down a different thing, and you can just be obsessed with that, which is sometimes why I have to shut off from any research and just think, okay, I'll use what I already know and let's just write, because otherwise we're never going to get a book written. And you don't have you don't have that long to write it, so you do have to actually get going.
That's a good way to segue in. So we've gone through the nursing, in the maternity unit. Kids are on in the picture now, working in the prison. Was there an aptitude or an ambition to be a writer underpinning, all these years, or no?
Not an ambition to be a writer. I'd written a short story, so after I'd left the nursing and when I was doing the little, lunchtime thing up at the school and looking after the kids, I did write a short story. So I was interested in writing. I'd done a really short course or something on writing years beforehand that I didn't finish. I didn't finish that either. Honestly, I'm surprised I finished a book.
That's the biggest commitment. It's nearly a year journey.
Oh God! But so yeah, and I got that published, which was a real surprise. And I think that's what gave me the I was not expecting to get this short story published. I think I got paid £300, which was like.
And what was it on, Alice?
That was so the short story, the women's magazines and the usual sort of stuff. This was Candice magazine, so it's based, I think, older people. Really, it was aimed at, and it was some story about a nursing home kind of thing. So it's like a
thrillery or
no, not at all. So there's no thriller involved in that. I can't remember when I started doing the thrillery things. But yeah, it was just like a general kind of fiction thing, more sort of an emotional pull on, I think it was an older woman who'd lost her memory and that sort of thing. So it's an emotional thing. But then because I started the prison, I just completely put that to the back of my mind. There was no time for writing.
Especially with kids. And
I think because of I don't want to say stresses of the prison, but the initial year of being there, there's so much to learn, there's so much in my head. I couldn't even read. So I couldn't even read a book. So reading and writing just went to the back of my head entirely. I've forgotten your question.
Yeah, no, it was
so sorry,
was the kind of ambition of writing underpinning all these years. But it sounds like it not like serendipitous, but almost, you were doing the short stories, one hit, and it was probably gave it a bit of confidence then to, okay, let's go from short story into longer story.
So the novel writing didn't even strike until after I'd left the prison. So I think my dad died in when I hit my 40th birthday, and everything went to pot. Basically, is the way I could think of it. Is that's the only way I can describe it. It just all started going downhill, and my dad died, and then the prison work became a little bit. I was different, and I was approaching things in a way that wasn't conducive with working with prisoners. So I ended up getting into arguments with prisoners and finding I was just getting picky, and rather than using my skills in the appropriate way, I was just like getting mad at them. I was like, I'm angry at you. You're doing all this, and my dad's died, and I had a real kind of I had a real moment of thinking, I don't want to do this anymore. I just can't do it. So I just left. So after 3 years, I left. I think it was like the week after my dad's funeral, in fact, that I said I'm going, and that's when I thought I'm gonna write a novel. So I think because of the prison being so fresh in my head, and all the things that were going on there, my first novel was based purely on prison. It was all prison, and dark. And I think I was just letting all these things come out in my writing, it's therapeutic.
It is. It's cathartic.
I did, and I managed to do a 80,000 word novel, and I did all the things that you meant to do as do your trying to find an agent and all that sort of thing.
So brutal.
It was brutal, but I actually really I enjoyed it. I liked the waiting for the emails to ping in, even if it was a rejection, which there were many. But one agent did ask to see the full manuscript, which is always a big thing when you're an author. It's like, the first person wants to see the whole thing. It's like, oh my God, it's so exciting. And she took it, and it was 6 months, I think, before she came back to me. And in that time, I'd started writing another one, because as you do, you don't just sit back and wait for somebody to take it up. So I started another one, and I think I'd put that one in, the first, 10,000 words into the Crime Writers Association debut Dagger Award, and I got longlisted for it. So in that whole time then, basically, the agent came back and said it was unremittingly bleak, and although she liked my writing, she just doesn't know where to sell this book. I mean, basically she's saying, I can't sell this book.
It's too dark.
It's too dark. There's nothing. There should be some light and shadow, but basically this is all shadow. So, So I think
there's a reader base for that. I'd say that's
still in my bottom drawer. It's never come out. That book. That book's gone in the dark now. But in a way, I've kind of used a little bit of it, in a sense, for The Perfect Psychopath, because this is the first book that I've written with any prison in it.
Yeah.
So even though the serial killer books were all based on not on my knowledge, but I'd used my experiences and my stuff for those books. They didn't have any prison related stuff in them, really. But this one, as you said, is more set in the prison. So eventually you use these things, don't you? Everything comes out in the end. But
I think and like I said, the listeners hopefully will be going reading. It's The Perfect Psychopath is the book, and I just want to say it's absolutely incredible. I love it. I think a lot of the listener base is kind of into true crime, definitely on the Dark Finds page, so I think it'll be right up there, Ali. The serial killer that's in prison, you could feel how he was trying to manipulate. It was just, you could get them subtle cues. It was so believable. And he was such a good character. And I think sometimes the best characters are the ones you don't get to interface with much. I was craving next time there'd be another setting.
Lucas,
and I think that is just brilliant writing, because you're constantly, I was like, okay, when is the next going to be interview with him? And I think leaving the reader longing like that, or listener, I did audiobook on that one, and by the way, and they were incredible, the two people that did it. I know he's Sackville, I can't remember the girl's name.
Oh, crikey, you've put me on the spot now, I can't remember.
She is absolutely brilliant as well. Just really brought it to life.
She was one in one of the other books as well. So she's done a couple of mine. Oh, where is the audiobook?
Yeah, and I couldn't believe how many accents she could get. Like, she just had such a good way of...
Catherine Walker Booth.
That's it. Oh,
And John
amazing.
Sackville, yeah. So, yeah, it's fascinating hearing other people put your words out there, yeah. Because in your own head, you, I don't know, you write it and you read it differently. And, yeah, it's fascinating to get other people's take on that. But, yeah.
Yeah.
It's really
But,
good.
like, yeah, that was such a good book. Like, it was a really propulsive thriller. But I suppose, okay, I'll go back because we will go on to that more. But so what was the second book? So the first one didn't. And again, I think this is good, like, for anyone that's listening, because, like, I don't know what it is for, like, other things in life, but writing is absolutely brutal with rejection. It's just, it's very, I think it's like 1% maybe of all manuscripts, maybe even less. I think I've read 0.5 will get accepted. So there's a lot of rejection, and there's a lot of waiting around wondering.
Yes, there is
But,
a
like,
lot of waiting.
you weren't discouraged anyway. Okay, so
No.
yeah. So, tell us. You start straight into the second one.
So, yeah, that one got put to the side. The prison one got put to the side. And the one that I'd started writing was the one that my agent said, I'm interested in this book. So I actually got signed before the book was finished, which is quite unusual. Excuse me.
Very unusual.
It's quite a different... So there was different kind of pressure then, really, because wait, I've got to finish the book now. She's got to like it. And, yeah, so she actually helped me work on that book. And I started writing under a different name back when that was in. So the Alice Hunter books came later. So I'd already written 8 books, I think, before the Alice Hunter brand came out. So all with the same publisher. So it's a really interesting kind of thing. So they obviously knew I could write because they'd got the book that I worked on with my agent, Anne, was the one that was published by Avon. So that was back in 2016. Yeah, 2016. But then there's that whole kind of rebranding thing that a lot of publishers do with authors now. Alice Hunter was kind of born from my editor at the time at Avon knew obviously my background with the prison and wanted something more serial killery than what I did. So the other stuff had been quite just basic sort of domestic noir kind of books. Whereas this one, she wanted the focus on, well, obviously it's called The Serial Killer's Wife. So it's wanted to be about the family kind of dynamics and how having a serial killer in your family affects the person. So it's not all about the serial killer, it's about the person who's affected by the serial killer, which is why the books, even though they're serial killer's wife, daughter, sister, they're only linked in theme and the title kind of similarity, but they're different characters each time. So it's following different stories. So they're only linked. It's classed as a trilogy, but they're not following the same characters. So yeah, it was that kind of whole thing of that came about through Avon still. And they were just really keen on that serial killer's wife title. And the title just seemed to, I don't know why, it just got everybody's attention. And it just took off. I mean, the book it's the best-selling book of all of mine. And obviously then it was adapted for the TV series. So that's a bit of a writer's dream,
And
that's
Alice,
amazing.
just to pause there for a sec, because that is absolutely incredible. But I want to go back to what you said there a few minutes ago. Like, you didn't have, you did your GCSEs or that, didn't have much, ambitions, or, came from maybe a household that, ambitions wasn't pedestal. Like, how does that feel then from being, best-selling writer, now your imagination is on the screen going into everyone's homes and stuff like that. You're in this little small town. Like, that must be surreal.
It's very, very surreal, I think. Yeah, it's like I said, it's one of those things that you never really expect. You would always hope. I mean, it's a big thing, isn't it? If you think, oh, my book's got optioned, I'd hear other people having that done. So it was great, really. I just loved it. I mean, I felt like I manifested this at some point in my life. I just, it's going to happen. But it's sad my mum and dad weren't here to see it, is my biggest thing, because they didn't know any of my writing. They both were gone by the time I actually was published. But like I said, this kind of small village, everybody knows who you are. everyone's supportive of that, and everyone's interested in that. And yeah, there's definitely the big screen thing. Or big screen TV, obviously not big screen, not film.
It's kind of the big screen now, because we're going to 85 inches in most homes.
Yeah, that's true, actually. We have just got a really big TV as well, yeah. Surreal, and also I felt slightly, I don't know if disjointed from it a little bit, because, I don't know, they adapted it so it's so different. Yeah, the adaptation process was it's taking basically a psychological thriller. It's quite hard, isn't it, to translate to the screen. Yeah. So they've put their own twists in, and so it's got changed a lot. I didn't even know. I had nothing to do with the TV series at all.
Yeah, they take it, and
so they've taken it and made it their own, which is great. And yeah, it's given a different life to it almost, isn't it? It gives, other people are seeing it, but of course it is very different to the book.
Yeah.
But I did actually, when it was a very quick process as well, I learnt about the option December 22. It was on the telly in December 23. So the whole thing was a year for me. That's really quick. And yeah, it's really fascinating experience. Very exciting, obviously.
I hope the perfect Psychopath gets a TV rendition.
I'd love
that.
That's perfect. I feel like I think so, but I'm going to, aren't I? Because I wrote it. But in my head, it was much more, probably the most visual book for me. But maybe that's because of my experience. I put myself into that situation, so I maybe was seeing it play out more. Because visually, for the other books, I do visualise a lot as I'm writing, but not to the degree that I did with this one. I could really see all the characters in my head much clearer with this perfect psychopath. So it's probably the most fun to write, I think, as well.
And there's a visceral feeling in parts of it, because the serial killer that's in the prison, he is just so, I can't remember his name again.
Lucas Hayes.
Lucas, that's it. Yeah. He is just, there's something about him. It's even when, and where you're going about the visual parts, I'll explain. There's parts when he looks up into the psychologist's eyes, and I can feel that he's done that nearly to me. I don't know, whatever way you wrote it, there's that visceral feeling in it, because he's such a kind of creepy, manipulative, psychopathic character. There's nothing cookie cutter about him. It's very believable. Sometimes I think with novels and stuff, the serial killer or the psychopath can be almost too Hollywoodized, where it's the charm is so over the top, it doesn't feel real. With him, it felt real, this is the real deal.
I think that's kind of what I wanted to do, in the sense that they could be it can be almost a normal conversation in most of the ways. It's just those little things that, tickle the back of your neck, just give you that bit of a, like they're looking right into, they know something about you that you don't. It can be really creepy. And I guess I remembered that. That's what I'm saying about, I tended to draw my own feelings working with these people that I went through. I had some, God, I don't know how long ago now, for another book or this one, I can't remember, a review that said something about, why, because they obviously knew from my bio that I worked in a prison, but they were saying about the character, well, why is she allowing, as a psychologist, you shouldn't allow that in, but you're a human, and it doesn't matter about your training. There are elements that are going to push through those barriers that you've put up and just make you feel all the feelings that you probably feel like you shouldn't feel. But yeah, there's certainly an element of that when I was working with people. I was like, oh my God, this person's pushing all my, and it's happening. They're pushing your buttons.
Have to remain cool and calm and professional. That's the thing.
But I'd come home from some of these sessions with prisoners, and it'd be on my mind. I wouldn't sleep. I'd be thinking about it, and yeah, it's just it would play on my mind. And like I said, I wasn't a psychologist, but obviously you do have an element of training, and yeah, of course it affects you. I mean, you'd be
a psychopath.
Yeah. actually, I do wonder why we're drawn in, like certain people are drawn into those roles as well in prison, or any kind of working with psychopaths and things. You do, because the fascination. Is there a fine line between us, like having that obsession? I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I feel like a lot of the people that I worked with had things in their past that drew them to working with criminals because of something that had happened to them. So there is a psychological aspect in yourself, I think, that draws you to that work. So there are going to be things that trigger you with other people, and certain crimes, particularly, I think when because obviously I had young children, and my daughter specifically was going out and getting drunk, and she was at that stage of life, and I was being a huge panic because I'm working with all these people that I know have done all these awful things. And of course, you're in a concentrated area in a prison. You've got all of them there. It's not like life in the outside, but yeah, it would affect me a lot, and how I then dealt with my own children.
Yeah, because you're going to take some of that home, because you're around, like, some of the worst behaviour people. Some of that's going to stick with you. It's like anything. It's there's going to be a level of kind of trauma, probably, or that you kind of take home because it's abnormal. It's abnormal to be probably around. To not be a criminal and to be around so much criminals. Like, you'll probably get used to it eventually, but I can imagine it's disorientating at first.
Definitely.
But I suppose, Alice, coming up next then, I think, is it the serial killer's gene? Is that on the cards next? Or?
It's the serial killer gene, yeah. So we're looking at because obviously with serial killers, and psychopaths, you've got that
MAOA.
And there's a lot of scientific sort of stuff in the genes. I know that's obviously, it's where you are as well. It's not just genes, but that is a lot of it, isn't it? So yeah, I'm exploring that kind of take, and so it's similar themes again as the serial killer books, the first three, I think, but. Just taking a little look at a relationship between a mother and daughter.
Okay, that's really interesting because obviously, like, the serial killers, they're female, male, there's such differences. Like, I think in psychopathy area, females tend to rely more on promiscuity, but with the males, it's far more on the kind of charm, the glibness, etc.
So,
but
yes,
just when you're talking about the serial killer gene, did you ever hear that James Fallon? Dr. James Fallon.
I think. Go on.
He was.
Is he the one that did the MRI?
Yeah.
Yes.
And realised he was doing all these MRIs, looking at all these.
I love it.
And then he realises at the end of all these scans, he picks up the last one. It's like, oh yeah, very psychopathic on that. He's holding it up to the screen, and it was his own.
Yeah. Which
is unreal. I actually reached out to try get him on the podcast.
That would be great.
But no, he was dead. Like, or he's died. Yeah.
Oh, no.
His
That's
wife
a whole different podcast. That one.
Yeah. His wife had agreed to come on, but I don't think she'd. I think she can only do it on phone, and it might be just a bit difficult to hear. But it's still in the works. I think that'd be just so interesting. She said actually, because he wrote the book, I think all about that. But he has a different book that's really unknown that she said is far better. He went out to like Cambodia and Laos and Vietnam after the war and did like a lot of trials out there on the PTSD and kind of psychopathies. But I'm really excited for the serial killer gene. Sorry, a bit of a tangent there. When do you think? Are you writing that at the minute?
Yes, I'm writing that now. So it's due out early May.
Early May, brilliant. I'll have that marked. And like, come here, are you doing one a year? What's your commitment?
They're coming out one a year.
One a year.
By the time I get round to starting writing, I think we probably get about 4 months to write the book. So it's quite a quick.
Oh my God, 4 months? Are you serious?
Well, now it's two.
Oh my God.
Don't tell anyone. I'm a little bit behind. But it's really
I
hard
feel
to
bad
balance.
taking an hour up for
Oh,
this.
no, Saturday's a family day. I try to balance it because it's really quite difficult. I've got 4 grandchildren.
Yeah.
You're trying to do the writing is full-time job for me, but do I do it full-time? There are days when, obviously, when you start editing and stuff like that, editing is my least favourite part,
Yeah.
which is very unusual for writers. I think most people love editing the book, but I'm more about I like the first draft. I like doing that.
Getting it down.
And then I'd like to just okay, that's done now. I've done
Yeah.
it. And then they start coming back with, well, the structure could do with this. I'm like, oh no, really?
No.
Do I have to do more?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really
and what's
hard.
the process? So like,
definitely
are
editing is not
you?
my thing.
How many drafts would you go through? Like, are you a 5 draft or a 4 draft, or is it just random?
No. Well, I'll do a 1 draft because I do quite slow writing. I'm not a speed writer at all.
Well, it sounds like you're able to pump them out.
Yeah, in a sense I am, but I will go through, and it's like I take a long time with that first draft, if you know what I mean. I don't just whack it all out and then go back to it and start fleshing it out. I mean, there will be, obviously, I leave out description and like detail of place names and all that sort of stuff, because I could spend 7 hours researching a place or a name or trying to come up with a fake name, and I just go down these rabbit holes. So I just put little brackets and go, come back to this. So those kind of things I'll go back to, but the bulk of it, I try and get I'm quite detailed in my plan. So all my chapters I've got kind of ready. I'm actually
skeleton.
Yeah, so that I know what I'm doing, because it's split into halves, and I've got like past chapters, I've got multimedia chapters, which I used a bit actually in The Perfect Psychopath, like having snippets from different things just to bring in a little bit of a different element. And so I know roughly what I'm doing. So that's why I think it does, 2-3 months does speed it up a bit. But then, the actual editing takes a bit longer for me.
Yeah. So like, are you researching serial killers, like, or where are you drawn on the kind of the psychological gratification they'll need, or their signatures or MO? Like, you kind of going down rabbit holes of serial killer or dark personalities.
Yeah, I can. I mean, I've got a lot of books as well that I've got that are based on true life, or like there's a woman who was a doctor in a prison, and she was telling her story. So there's quite a lot of things like that I've read, but I try not to do too much, to be fair, on the research, and try and make it more about what I remember and what I've got. And I know that the problem is with that is my stuff is dated a bit now. My knowledge is dated, so you do have to kind of look up other things. But you've got your basic serial killers. You know what I mean? The ones that always come up,
trope. Yeah,
and like Ted Bundy, which is always a big one. I always think because he does seem to embody all of the
everything.
Yeah.
And it's the charm.
The charm.
People still, like, he's still so famous.
And the women that loved him. And that's, so there's a lot of that kind of thing that I would look at. But no, I think a lot of the research now is on small snippets of things, just to make sure I've got, like the serial killer gene isn't obviously it's not really called the serial killer gene. It's the MAOA,
yeah.
Yeah. So it's the warrior kind of
gene, yeah.
But
but it is kind of
but it is kind of so that kind of thing. I feel like I need to have a fairly good depth of knowledge, but most of it I'm a fiction writer, so I'm going to make.
You're not writing non-fiction.
yeah. So I'm sorry if there are people obviously that will look at it and go, oh, that's nice. And it's like the prison stuff itself. At the end of the day, I worked in a category C prison, so it's not high security like I've got in the book. So there is a lot of things that would quite work.
The normal readers they just want a good story, you can't sweat that. Yeah.
So I've got to balance that kind of like being correct and making stuff up,
and being entertaining.
Yeah. Entertaining, yeah. I want to be entertaining, and also I live in my own little world, so I want to be able to bring that out. And
Well, Alice, Yeah, thanks so much for coming on. Been so interesting. I love having thriller writers on, as I said from the start. I just think it's so interesting to go through the process, and the genesis of where it kind of comes from. But yeah, tell, I suppose, all the listeners where they can maybe find you or connect with you. I'll put the links for your books below then.
Yeah, I was going to say at the moment, I mean, the Perfect Psychopath is the latest book out, and that was out in May. So it's usual kind of online places, and you can order it in the bookstores, and you can find me on Instagram, which is where I'm mostly at. What is my? Have I written? I think
I have it here.
I think it's at Alice Hunter _author.
_author, yeah. That's it. Actually, I'll put it down below as well in the. Just in case any of the listeners want to connect, I'm going to follow to see what you're doing, any updates.
Lovely, thank you. But yeah, I feel like we're getting back into it, because the Bad Apple, I know you mentioned briefly Bad Apple, it seemed to go out of the brand a little bit, didn't it? It doesn't. Yes. It's kind of the black sheep of the family, I feel. But I really enjoyed that book. I really enjoyed writing that book. But it's slightly out of the brand.
The covers the main difference for me, really, because it just has, because whoever does your covers does a really good job, I have to say. Like, they're really eye-catching and great title, yes. And then great.
And I've seen the cover for The Serial Killer Gene already, and I love it. Yeah, it's really good. Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, roll on anyway. I suppose a good while to wait, May next year, but I will be looking forward to it.
Thank you for
having me on. And I
actually
haven't watched that show. I'm going to have to check it out on, I think it's on Paramount Plus, isn't it? Or is
Paramount Plus, but I think you can also see it on Channel 5, on the streaming on Channel 5, because it was on at Christmas, I think. So, so that was really an interesting experience. So I'd be fascinated to hear your take now you know the book.
Yeah.
To see how they adapted it. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, that could be a weekend, Saturday night.
Yeah, it's only four episodes. You could just binge them. Yeah. We're all into binging now, aren't we?
Definitely. That's the one or a few of the good things of modernity anyway, is easy accessibility to content. But Alice, look, thanks so much. Best of luck finishing Serial Killer Gene with it.
Thank you.
And yeah, enjoy the rest of the weekend. I know you said it's family time, but thanks a million.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you.